always try to question everything and understand everything. So, but not to the point where you, like we were talking about earlier, not to the point where you have to be an expert, but when you get in your car and you drive to work or you drive to the beach, understand why the car is going forward when you push your foot on the accelerator. Yeah. Don't just be ignorant to it. And if you do that in everything in your life, I think you just are constantly learning and asking questions.
In 1837, Horace Mann created the education system, a system at the time designed to pump out factory workers and professors. The same system that is still being used today in the 21st century. Now, Mann's system is backfiring. We are being moulded by the same industrial system that has existed for close to 200 years. That system delivers us into a digital economy that has no need of our outdated skills. This isn't our teachers' fault. This isn't the government's fault. This is due to a rapidly changing world full of technology and unforeseen circumstances. And us Gen Zs are caught in the middle. Welcome to the Driven Young podcast, the podcast for stressed, overwhelmed young Australians, teaching you practical life skills you can implement now to set yourself up in life. And now your host, Byron Dempsey.
Welcome back to the Driven Young podcast, and today I'm joined by Alex Harper. Alex is an absolute legend. He's the co-founder of an incredible startup called Swyftx. They are a crypto trading platform here in Australia and have just been evaluated at $600 million. Alex is currently hiring about one person a day, and the team of Swyftx is growing fast. He flew down for this episode and spent multiple hours talking, sharing our visions, and having a great time. He is a super down-to-earth guy, and I'm excited to share this episode with you all. In this episode, we go really deep into Alex's story. He shares how he started his first business when he was a kid, to starting 7 other businesses, of which most of them failed. He discusses his mindset and what was going through his head at the time, how he came up with the idea for Swyftx, how they have grown so fast, his vision for the future to become a billion-dollar company, important skills such as networking, and much, much more. Swyftx is a really, really cool company. This team culture is amazing, and Alex is passionate about helping the next generation just like I am. If you're in Australia and want to start trading crypto, download this app. I use it. It is hands down the best crypto trading platform in Australia, and I'm really excited to keep working with Alex and his team in the future. Swyftx has a lot planned for the future, and I know they really want to help the next generation when it comes to finances, so definitely stay in touch with this company if that's something you're interested in. As per usual, please DM me on Instagram. I love receiving your messages. Consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps me out. Check out Swyftx, and any links you need will be in the show notes below. Now, over to Alex. Alex, welcome so much to the podcast.
Hey mate, thanks for having us.
Really excited. So you are the founder and CEO of Swyftx, which is a crypto trading company. And a big one in Australia and specifically. I'm really excited about this conversation. We've just spent about an hour off camera having a chat. You've flown down for this. So before we get into, I guess, the business side of things and what you guys do and everything, I'd love to know your story. Like, how did you start this company? What did you do after high school and kind of the failures and everything in between?
That's a big open-ended question. But no, it's I guess it all started when I was pretty young. I think around sort of 10, 12, something like that. I actually asked my mum about this the other day. Why did I start my first business? And she said that I was looking to invest in some shares. I think it was CBA. My dad was pretty into the stock market back then, and I sort of wanted money to invest alongside him. And so when you're that age, no one really is going to give you a job. So you're on the option to start your own business. So I did that. Went down to local markets selling fruit juice. Got pretty good experience in regards to, that's your first lesson. You talking to customers, buying produce, and then that experience of then marking it up and making a profit and balance sheets and all that sort of stuff. I remember have some really fond memories of silly things like taking my mum's tea chest and turning it into a cash register, just making work what you had. We were operating out of the family caravan, or the camper van that we'd fold out, running the power cable through the louvers in the men's bathroom to run the fruit juicer. So yeah, lots of really fond memories, and obviously shout out to my parents in being supportive of that. I think on that topic as well, my parents have always been very much do-it-yourself kind of people. Very much like very, very supportive, but not in the way that you want them to be supportive as a kid.
I completely agree. I had the same thing. They didn't coddle you. I remember looking back at my parents, I'm like, it would have been so easy for them to just give me $10 At the time, I thought that was so much money. It's like they could have just given me $10, but they made me work for it. And I hated that as a kid. But as an adult, you look back and go, you know what? I'm really grateful they did that.
Yeah. And they tell you that, well, you'll thank us for this when you're older. You're like,
but you don't believe them.
No way. But it's true. Trust me. And so things I used to do, I think, on that topic is later on when I was working in my IT business, I had to pay them to get a lift to my jobs because it was an on-site computer repair, so it was like part of the cost of running the business. And so then I do sneaky things like getting my customers to come and pick me up, take me to their house, fix their computer, and drop me back again. So you just making things work basically. And I used to get my flyers printed at school. Get the sweet talk the reception lady, and she'd print out a couple hundred flyers for you instead of going to Officeworks and spending all your money. So dropping them out on your push bike and instead of paying marketing agencies. I grew up out in Sanford actually, which is acreage, and it's a long way between houses when you're on a push bike. It's not like the suburbs, but it's a good community. So anyway, I guess back to the business building stuff. So the next thing I did after that was started mowing lawns. I said lived on acreage, so there's lots and lots of lawns to mow, and just jumped on Dad's mower, which I had to pay a fee for borrowing.
I love that.
And I had to contribute towards maintenance and of the mower and all that sort of stuff. Petrol, yep. I had the same 16 songs on my Walkman, which I used to listen to over and over again. Some hits of whatever it was back then, and those songs are still stuck in my head to this day. But so mowed lots of lawns, and then moved up from that into fixing computers, like I said before, for little old ladies and just people who needed help plugging in their printers and that sort of stuff. So I ran my first ad in the local paper, taught myself how to build a website so that I could get online, started learning how to advertise through Google Ads and search engine optimization, just sort of reading all this stuff online. I then, I hired a few people. I had a few mates working in that business. So that was, at that time, I was probably in about grade 10. And
it's like 15.
Yeah, something like that. And so I got a good experience with that, hiring some friends. And then in, I think, sort of at the start of grade 12, I decided not to continue with my formal education. And I actually started, so I finished up school at the start of grade 12 and then went out and started a TAFE course on business.
And why do you think you made that decision? What was going on there?
I was surprisingly, again, supported by my parents in that decision. I sort of said to them, the school I went to, which was a Steiner school, they had a really, really awesome curriculum, like really hands-on, lots of coverage across all sorts of different things. But I guess at that point, I decided that I wasn't very good at working for people. I did actually have a job at Woolworths in between all of this sort of, and I used to ride my bike to Woolies and cool off in the freezer and then come out in the registers. So did that for a couple of years, and that $7.70 an hour, whatever it was that you get paid as a youngster. So I think by that point I decided that didn't really want to work for anyone. Business seemed to be sort of in my blood, I guess, that was just what I wanted to do.
Because the lawn mowing and the IT and all that, yeah.
Yep.
So you had a good understanding of, I guess, time for money. You'd had a small little taste of, leverage in terms of having employees and having other people bring in money for you.
Yeah, definitely. So I looked at the curriculum for the rest of the year 12 and I thought, I think my time is going to be better spent focusing on the education that I'm want to go after, which is the business side of things. So did that, kept working on my business. I am, again, terrible at doing what other people want me to do. So I didn't actually complete a single piece of assessment in that whole degree. It was that whole TAFE course. It was online. So I just smashed through the content. I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, no, I can't do these assignments. It's just
So you didn't graduate?
No.
So you dropped out of high school, then dropped out of TAFE?
Yeah, you could say that.
Love it.
But I did the course content, and that gives you a bit of the overview of some of the legals of running a business and the basic stuff that you should know without making those mistakes. You want to set your companies up properly from the get-go and understand your tax and know your insurance liabilities and employment law and all that sort of stuff.
So, all the logistics.
get that all under the hood. But then I sort of identified that providing services, which is like computer repairs, is not an overly scalable business model. So I thought tech is the way forward. Let's use all my experiences in the services space, and also use that sort of income, because our business was fairly self-sufficient at that point. Had people working in it. Wasn't making me a huge amount of money because, there's a lot of overheads, and, you've got wages of people, and there's a lot of competition in that space. So, basically use that as a funding mechanism to give me the flexibility and freedom to work on another project, which was a credit card processing, or actually it was an invoicing platform to begin with. And that's when I decided to teach myself to code, and I just sort of made some really poor quality software. Didn't really work very well, and then so I got some mates in that were a lot better at programming. But by that point, you've established a little bit, enough of an understanding to be dangerous, so to speak, which is pretty handy. And I think Mike Cannon-Brooks from Atlassian gave a speech at TED in regards to the Imposter Syndrome. So it's sort of that idea of just not being an expert in everything, and that when you're launched into that role as a business owner, that's just what you gotta do. You just gotta know enough to get to get an understanding and make informed decisions, but then you don't have to be the expert in everything.
Well, I was reading Elon Musk's book, which I've read, which is someone wrote a book about him, and there's a part in it where he said when he's top, like he's got his top engineers at like Tesla and SpaceX. A top engineer from SpaceX come in. And he said he came in, he sat down, and Elon just hit him with question after question, like really advanced questions about engineering and stuff.
Yep.
And the guy was like, oh, he must be testing me. And afterwards he realized he wasn't testing me. He was trying to learn from me. He's like, so how does this work? Because Elon was trying to learn all that sort of stuff. And he's not an engineer, but he's got a solid understanding of how a lot of that stuff works. As you mentioned, he doesn't know enough, but he knows enough that he can kind of manage people who know what they're doing.
Yep.
Which I think it's important to understand that.
Yeah.
Like if you have a good understanding, enough knowledge of coding, when they're doing the coding, it's a lot easier to manage them because you kind of know what they're going through and their perspective.
It's also great for communication and also earning the respect of the people working for you.
Respect, I think, is a big one as well.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to listen to someone who has no idea what they're doing. It's like, no, you need to do this, but how would you know you're not good at coding? Whereas you've got a rough understanding. That's a great, foot in the door in terms of getting respect from your peers.
Yeah, and really valuable as a tech company as well. So we hear this a lot from employees joining us from other, like our engineering team that are coming across from other software or businesses that have software teams. And they come in and they talk about the difference of working at a business with a software team versus a business that is tech driven and that is a tech company and that has tech leadership. It makes a whole complete difference in the direction of the business. But so anyway, I brought these mates in to build the credit card processing platform, and we launched it after 3 years of Thursday nights and no Sundays, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears basically. And got our apps in the App Store, and about a month later, Square, which is a big payments platform from the US, launched the exact same thing in Australia, and undercut us, put a lot of pressure on our very small customer base. We're self-funded, trying to get by. And then we also ran into a lot of problems as being the credit card provider. We're responsible for the fraud that happened across our platform, which was a little bit of something we missed, I guess, in our legal process of establishing the business. We didn't quite realize we had liabilities there, and then we ended up in a position where it kind of really took away the fun. Every time there was a big transaction that came through, it was almost stressful because it was like, what if we become liable for this? Whereas we should be celebrating big transactions because that's a win. That's when we're growing our revenue stream. So we eventually closed that down. So that was heaps of lessons learnt there. Partnerships, legal, fraud, due diligence, tech, software. We had manufacturers in China building little credit card processors for us. So just the whole range of software and tech, and that was a really, really great experience.
So it wasn't 3 years wasted?
No.
Yeah. Just 3 years of learning, essentially.
Yeah. Definitely the best way to learn is to get in and do it.
Yeah.
And
because you could have studied for 3 years on that, or you could have started a business, learn all that stuff, and like, for me, there's a no-brainer. Of course, for 3 years of actually doing it, you're going to learn so much more than you would sitting in the classroom just kind of learning about the concept of it.
definitely. Every single, I think my co-founder in Swyftx, Angus, probably got sick of me saying, "Oh, when we did this in that project, you know," he's like, "Oh, here we go again, one of Alex's learnings." So yeah, it's definitely been instrumental in every business that I've built. I think I'm officially by title, like business title, I'm up to I think the 8th business now that I've built. Always been self-funded and always been a journey, and always looked after our customers all the way along. But every single business has been successful and is more successful than the last, and the success of the previous one helps the success of the next one, even though obviously not all of them are still operating today, but there's been positive outcomes for everyone along the journey. Awesome,
man. So I mean, obviously you can see that entrepreneurship is kind of in your blood. You know, you had that going from the day one. And I think a really important takeaway there is how much of an impact parents can have. Because I kind of had the same thing. I'm super grateful for my parents. I'm like, that the reason I'm here and the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because my parents gave me the freedom, the flexibility, but they also put, you know, valuable lessons throughout my life, which I now appreciate as an adult. I think that's a really, really great takeaway from that story. But then also, you know, we spoke about it off camera, you know, that quote Messi says, I took 16 years and 45 days to become an overnight success. It's like Swyftx is an overnight success that had 7 failures before it, or 7, you know, years and years of failures and learnings, which you've then applied. And now you've got this company, which is kind of, you know, blown up. Like I think you mentioned you're employing like 1 person a day right now. So it's scaling like crazy, which is awesome. So I guess, did you want to give us a real quick, in a few minutes, like what is Swyftx, this company you've started now? And I guess, how did that company even start? Like what was the decision and the process behind that?
Yeah, so I'll probably focus more on the journey of building it. But to give you a quick rundown, Swyftx is a cryptocurrency trading platform where people can buy, sell, exchange any sort of 250 cryptos. And we got a very heavy focus on our customer first approach and being friendly and transparent and trustworthy. People know who we are. We care about our customers. We care about our people. And, and in return, everyone cares about what we're doing as well. So that's sort of who Swyftx is, I guess, at a very, very high level. In terms of the journey, Angus and I are the co-founders. So we met in 2011 or 2012 down here in Sydney, actually. He's from Victoria, I'm from Queensland, and we came to a programming camp called NCSS, which is National Computer Science School. A bunch of nerds come together for a 2-week course at the Uni Sydney. Absolutely best thing I've done in my life. It was awesome. And Swyftx is really excited to actually be a sponsor of NCSS.
No way.
Hopefully this year, yeah.
That's awesome. That's full circle.
Trying to line that up. Yeah, very exciting, quite sentimental for myself and Angus to be giving back to that journey. We were roommates in the women's campus, which is where it was hosted, and I remember, we were both joking about being worried about sharing a room with some smelly nerd or something, and we just got on like a house on fire. I think just being afraid of who you're going to be stuck with, rather than thinking about how what can I learn from the people that I'm going to be with. So it was really, really good, and we got on like a house on fire, and we stayed in touch ever since then. But in 2017, with my exposure to technology in my IT business, was also following cryptocurrency. Thought, who do I know that's into cryptocurrency? It's like Angus, so gave him a call and said, mate, can you give us a hand getting started? So this was the start of 2017, about January, February, something like that. And so we set up an account. He kind of said, are you sure you want to do this? And so I spoke to my uncle. And I said to him, what do you think about investing in cryptocurrencies? At this point, it's 3 times its all-time high, which at that time was $1,000, and it was, I think, up around 3,000, something like that.
For Bitcoin? For
Bitcoin, yeah. And he said, well, you're young, so take some risks. I think at the time I'd maybe saved up about $30,000 from my businesses along the way. So I put about $10,000 into crypto and sort of took that risk. He said, look, if you lose it, it might seem like a lot of money to you right now, but in the long run, the potential payoff, because you are so young in your life, and you just work a few extra weekends, over the next 12 months, and you'll earn it back. So thank you, Uncle Mark.
It's honestly great advice. Like, I love that mindset of, taking risks while you're young. I talk about that all the time on the podcast. And even though I wouldn't recommend someone goes drop 1/3 of their savings into crypto or something because it's highly volatile, if you've got the mindset of, well, I'm only 22, I'm only 23, I'm 18 or whatever, it's like, if I lose it, it's not the end of the world. And I mentioned to you, I've got a mate who put $1,000 into like a random coin that went up to, actually, I think I didn't tell you this, it went up to 100,000. So he went from $1,000 to 100 grand. He didn't pull out though, and it dropped to 50 grand, but he pulled out at 50 grand. So he made, $49,000 within like a few weeks. And it's like, yeah, he could have easily lost that $1,000, but he wouldn't have minded because that's the game he's playing. He's like, right now I'm 19. I'm just going as hard as I can because if I fail, I'm still at home. And so I think depending on your scenario, that's a really, really great advice.
Yeah, definitely. I think today cryptocurrency is an established investment class, and I think plays an important part of a diversified portfolio. And we don't necessarily give advice as to what percentage that should be, but we definitely acknowledge that it is volatile and it is a high risk asset class. And there is no such thing, like we said before, as an overnight success or a way to cheat the system. But definitely, if you're younger, then exposing yourself to higher risk investments can potentially be less detrimental to your position, I guess. So I invested, and through that process, I identified that the price of cryptocurrency in Australia, because I always, I guess I might talk about this as well, which is one thing that I promote or encourage people to do a lot of is always try to question everything and understand everything. So, but not to the point where, like we were talking about earlier, not to the point where you have to be an expert, but when you get in your car and you drive to work or you drive to the beach, understand why the car is going forward when you push your foot on the accelerator.
Yeah.
Don't just be ignorant to it. And if you do that in everything in your life, I think you just are constantly learning and asking questions. I don't know what the stat is. I can't remember. It's something ridiculous in the amount of questions that like a 3-year-old will ask in a day. So I think keep that up as you get older and constantly seek to understand and learn everything. So
I love that philosophy. Like I'm the same with crypto. I'm not an expert in crypto, but I've watched a bunch of stuff. I feel like I know enough where I can bring on people like you and bring on people who know a lot more and have a decent conversation where I'm not completely ignorant to what it is. Same with a lot of the topics I cover. Like I'm not an expert in anything really, but I just know enough about certain things because I've done a lot of research or read some books around it and stuff, which gives me the confidence to have a good conversation around it. Exactly as you say with the car example. I think it's and it's so important to ask questions, and the quality of the questions you ask will determine the quality of response you get. If you're asking high quality questions to people, you're going to get high quality responses versus just very surface level questions, which most people just ask surface level questions.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I listened to a bunch of your podcasts on the way down on the plane as well to make sure I understand who you are, who the audience is, and really help the conversation be most valuable for everyone. So it's just constantly understanding. So I noticed that cryptocurrency was cheaper overseas. So I could buy Bitcoin cheaper overseas. And so I said to Angus, what's this all about? How come it's 3,000 in Australia, 2,000 equivalent in Europe? And that's sort of where we identified, okay, well, Bitcoin is decentralized in a sense where there is, no central exchange that it's being traded on, which means that you have potentially different prices if different people in different parts of the world are prepared to pay different amounts for it.
Meaning wealthier countries might pay more than less wealthier countries.
It actually typically goes the other way because of economies. So places like Turkey and Brazil and South Africa, where the governments and economies aren't doing well, people are exiting out of the native economy and going into cryptocurrency, which creates a supply and demand problem. And
they're seeing it as like a bit of a, outsider. It's just like, oh, look, this can save us. This currency can save us because it's not controlled by a government, which isn't doing that well. Yeah,
they're experiencing firsthand what happens when an economy run by a government is collapsing. So they're seeing alternative routes now, and that creates supply and demand. So you've got lots of people in the country trying to buy, not many people selling, so therefore the price goes up. And effectively that was what was happening in Australia, but not because of the economy, just because Australia is a smaller place. There's not a lot of people. The cryptocurrency market was going up, so lots of people are buying, not many people are selling. And sending currencies across borders is slow and painful and expensive. So what happens is you then get a price premium in Australia for buying cryptocurrency. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to set up accounts overseas, and this is where Angus was like, well, hang on, we can potentially buy cryptocurrency for 2,000
and then
sell it instantly for 3,000
Yeah.
and make money. And I said, no, that's a scam. That's too good to be true. That's
Yeah,
free
yeah.
money. There's no such thing as free money. If that's what you've ever been taught, there's no such thing as free money.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Angus had a Citibank account, and I might add, I spoke on the Citibank panel recently, and they were actually the first bank to close our accounts. So thank you very much, Citibank. But no, so we sent the money across. I think it was about $1,000. We sent over to the UK. We bought cryptocurrency over there, sold it in Australia, and we ended up with like 1,050. And we were like, whoa, that actually worked. We just made money. So we got all of our savings from everywhere we could, borrowed money from our parents, buddy mortgaged our cars, whatever we could do to scrape money together to increase the size of the transactions that we could do. So it's called arbitrage, essentially, and we did that for a couple of months, 3 or 4 months, and we were quite successful. So it was fairly low risk. Effectively, as markets like cryptocurrency mature, there becomes less opportunity for that because there's more money, more liquidity, more people doing it, and they, I think the terminology is they become more efficient. So because the market was even more, even younger than it is today, there was a big opportunity for that, and there still is an opportunity for that if you have the capacity to, bank the South African currency, and you can get it in and out of the country because you know people or you have connections. Then there's opportunity to make money there at the moment, but there's a reason it's quite hard to do.
Yeah.
So then we got to the point where like, right, do we take this money and buy a house and continue our sort of 9-to-5 job? Or do we try and solve this problem that we've just kind of experienced ourselves working, trading on Australian exchanges? There was, the platforms, and being tech people, the platforms felt a little bit slow and dated, I guess, from given that cryptocurrency is like a new and upcoming space. So we thought, seems to be a bit of opportunity there. We wanted to solve this problem of arbitrage. We wanted to create an awesome customer experience, which didn't seem to exist in crypto or even in a lot of modern finance apps. They're all very sort of automated, no touch points. Gone is the day. The day's gone where you can walk into the day isn't gone, but it's going away where you can sort of walk into a bank and talk to someone. So
100%, it's on its way down. I think like Upbank, Upbank?
Yep.
It's like digital platform. There is no physical Upbank. It's purely digital.
Yeah.
I think that's really looking at the future. And I think crypto is just accelerating that. Like, do you think banks are worried about crypto? Or what are they looking at? They're kind of going, it's good or bad?
It's interesting. I think, so I was talking to Simon Cant, I think is his name, and he is one of the managers of the Reinventure Fund, which invested in Coinbase. Was they made a few headlines. I think they made $300 or $400 million, something like that, from their investment in Coinbase. And the whole, reason. So Reinventure was heavily backed by Westpac, if not fully backed by Westpac. Don't quote me on that. Sorry, Simon. And the whole fund was created to help the banks hedge against disruptive fintech technology. So they only invest in things like cryptocurrency and buy now, pay later, and all that sort of stuff, things that might be disrupting the banking sector. So I don't think banks are smart. They're not afraid of something, and they have means of hedging themselves and getting exposure. So I think the technology is definitely disruptive to the banking sector, but I think they will do a good job of embracing it.
We kind of have to, I think.
Yeah.
Not now, but I think definitely in the next 10, 20 years, they're going to have to figure out something. And they got billions of dollars and and thousands of people. I'm sure they'll figure something out. Yeah,
and governments. There's great applications for blockchain technology across banking and governments and supply chain and all this sort of stuff. It's all still very young.
Yeah, 100%. But anyway, we'll go back to your story. So you identified that as a problem, and you went, well, let's start a business to fix that problem, as opposed to doing a 9-to-5.
Yeah. So that was the decision we made. We quit our jobs. Well, at that time, so I handed my business over to my business partner, the IT business, and I said to him, if I end up being successful in this next venture, I'll sign my shares over to you permanently, but in the meantime, can you pretty please run the business and,
Yeah.
and take over it for me? So it was a bit of a napkin deal with him. Angus was working in warehousing at Aldi, doing night shifts and making pretty good money off that. But I convinced him that let's do it. So we quit our jobs. We moved into a place together with George the cat. Special mention. I'm allergic, it turns out. And we set up the spare bedroom. We got a few roommates in. So, 2 blokes and a dream in the spare bedroom was basically where it started. And I looked at that bedroom wall for a long time more than anticipated. So we sort of announced that we were going to build this project and solve this problem. We got really great following across social media for it because obviously people were feeling the same pain we were, and we were going to come up with a solution. Especially
in Australia, like we're last to get apps like that. They always focus on America, then UK and stuff, because to be fair, we are very small.
Yeah.
And I think also there's value in being Australians in Australia, Australian company for Australians. I think we really value that as Australians rather than like an American company coming in to take advantage of our market. And that's where I think I can imagine why I would have done it quite well, especially off the bat in terms of, look, 2 young Australian guys are fixing this problem, trying to solve this problem, starting in the bedroom, humble beginnings sort of thing. I think it's a very attractive startup story.
We definitely copped a bit of hate for it as well from people that sort of say, oh, well, what experience, what knowledge would you have? Why would you be able to do that?
Imposter monster, like you mentioned before.
Yeah. So you just got to not listen to those people. And to be fair, there was one particular guy I remember that really had a go at us. And it was awesome to also see other people on social media sort of going, what does that matter? Like, give them a chance. They haven't done anything to prove they can't do it. So stop shooting them down. And to that guy, to the guy who initially had a go at us, he became a customer and he apologized.
Oh, really?
So
there you go.
it was nice to see that there's a little bit of humanity still left in some people. But so we planned 3 months, and at 6 months we launched our sort of demo mode, which we still have today, and we're still the only platform in Australia that offers it, and it's a really great opportunity for our customers to get on, place trades in what is effectively a real live market, but with fake money.
Yeah. So to clarify, because I like talking about this. A lot of other platforms when I talk about trading have that as well. They'll give you like $50,000 in fake money so you can play on the real market. So you've got that demo mode. I've seen it. You just switch it on the top of your app, which is a great opportunity if you've got no money, but you want to get into that mindset. And do you have to be a certain age for the demo mode? Or
No.
Anyone can do that.
Yep.
So if you're 15 listening right now, you can download the app, switch to demo mode, and you can start trading and experience what it's like in the market. Like, that's awesome. And it's something I didn't have and you didn't have when we were younger as well. I think it's really cool. So any younger listeners who aren't old enough to trade can start doing that with like fake money, which is really awesome.
It was inspired by the ASX. They run a competition every year, where they allow young people to get involved, and they without real money. So we thought, just makes sense. Basically, we say that all around our office a lot. Just makes sense, and that way we try and attack problems. So we launched the demo mode. We had a bit of fun with a little Mario competition, let people trade, get involved, build a bit of hype around the brand, let people test our product and give us feedback on it and iterate and improve. So then 6 months later we launched. It's worth noting that banks, like we touched on before, don't necessarily like cryptocurrency at the moment. We got debanked a lot. I was on the phone till 3 o'clock in the morning trying to speak all sorts of languages that I didn't understand in Europe and South America and all these sort of places, trying to find banking partners. And we eventually got banked, but it was a incredibly long and painful process. Yeah. And we definitely have lost a lot of bank accounts in Australia along the way, and you don't get any sort of reasoning. They just say, oh, sorry, but your account's now closed. It's like, cool, on to the next one. Fortunately, there is now a bank in Australia that does support cryptocurrency, so it's not so much of a problem. However, that does create a central point of failure for cryptocurrency exchanges in Australia, and it has been noticeable in the recent market where we as a platform have been struggling to accept customers' payments into the platform because of the banking partner being unable to process the transaction volumes, because they're handling all of the exchanges. The Bitcoin price goes down, everyone wants to buy, they all send their money at the same time. We've got 300,000 customers. We're not quite the largest. I think, some of the other ones potentially even have over 1 million. So there's a lot of people all at once trying to put money in through one banking rail, through one banking network, and the whole thing just goes. So that's one thing that we're, as an industry, trying to promote, is for banks to support fintechs and cryptocurrency, so that these sort of problems and that can really foster innovation instead of stifle it and create problems for everyone. But, anyway, so we launched January 2018, 12 months after we started. We had spent all of our savings on all of the legals and the engineering and the insurances and getting the platform up and running. And so I actually went back and took a part-time job while Angus stayed at home and continued to write code and build the platform and do the customer support. So he was the man, and I'd pay for all. Well, we'd basically split all the bills. So all the rent and the food and everything, I'd sort of all pay for it based on the fact that I was earning money while he was working on the platform. And we set a goal. So very important to have goals, and that by I think it was August we would be able to pay ourselves a wage and come back full time. Managed to get to that I think about a month early, which was really awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so then we hired our first engineer in August, Dan, who's still with us today, and he's doing an awesome job.
August, what year, sorry? 2019?
2018.
2018,
Yep, so 6 months after we started.
Yeah.
Yep, and then we were able to sign on a couple of partners in the affiliate space, which was able to help drive more traffic through to our platform, which then enabled us to grow more. And bearing in mind we're self-funded, so we didn't have huge marketing budgets to go out and splurge on everything. So it was all about who you know and working with people and doing the right thing by people. Grew the platform all through 2020. It was sort of so 2020 was COVID year.
Yeah.
Big crash in March I think it was. Yeah, with the whole economy, crypto crashed, and it's what I mean. For us as a platform, volatility is good. When it goes up and down, people trade more. So it's not too much, it's not too much of a concern for us in that position that we're in. But just making sure that we can obviously support our customers and keep everything up and running for them to keep trading. It's the biggest thing that we got to focus on when there's volatility. Rest of the year was just a big uptrend. There was lots of market activity, people looking to get that deflationary hedge with Bitcoin. So I sort of touched on this earlier as well, that one of the big concepts of Bitcoin in particular when it comes to store of value and its fundamentals is that there is a limited supply. So it can't, not more of it can't just be created.
Yeah, which is unlike cash or money, we can print more money and the government prints more money, which is why we mentioned, I think, I don't know if this is accurate, but 40% of the entire economy was printed in the past 2 years, apparently. I heard that statistic.
I think I've heard similar
things. Which is just insane. Yep. So 40% of all money in the world was printed in the past 2 years, which means that's going to cause inflation, which means money's going to be worth less because there's more in the economy. And so what we're saying is Bitcoin or crypto in general, you can't print or make more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Once it's made, it's made.
And Bitcoin has a concept where every 4 years approximately, it halves the rate at which it can be discovered.
Right.
So it reduces the rate at which more can enter the supply, and there is a fixed supply, and then as more people want it, there's an increased demand, reduced supply, fixed supply. Fundamentally, it means the price should continue to be driven upwards
because it gets harder to discover.
Yeah. So as long as people continue to see value in that sort of Bitcoin economy, then it will continue to keep going up in price. But it does move in huge volatile cycles because people do lose faith, and they it kind of then proves itself out, which it has in this last financial crisis. You can see what's happening.
Well, it's fear and greed, right? It's just fear and greed. People get fearful, people get greedy. Yeah, that causes massive volatility, especially in this market.
Yeah, definitely. So that was pretty much all of 2020. Was just focusing on sort of steady growth, I would say. Well, say steady growth. It felt pretty rapid, but on reflection of the last 6 months, it feels like steady growth. But it was we're growing about 70% month on month, which most high growth companies would probably do 200% a year. So it was going up pretty quick. We were hiring engineers, trying to build a platform, ship things, improve, constantly evolve, etc. So we got to January this year, we had about 50,000 customers in our user base.
In January this year?
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yep.
You just had a big year.
Yes, we've had a very, very busy year. And we had about 30 employees, something like that, 25, 30 employees in January. And we've just ticked over about 110 employees now and a bit over 300,000 customers. So if we just look at our user base, for example, it took us 2 years of operating effectively to hit 50,000 customers, and then it took us another 5 weeks to get 100,000. And that rate of scale is just immensely challenging to work with, especially when we have such a heavy touch point and focus with our customers. You go from having 3 people in your customer support team to needing 6, to then 5 weeks later needing 12, to then 5 weeks later needing 24. So I think we've got nearly 35 people in our customer support team across 4 countries. I think in Portugal, Sweden, Canada, and New Zealand. We've got people providing 24/7 customer support. So it's just been one of the most challenging parts of the business to scale, and it definitely cuts us every time we see an unhappy customer. But we're just working as hard as we can to scale that across the whole business, from the tech, the experience the customers receive, the contact points with our employees, and that whole process. So
I think it's important message there. Is it the J curve they call it? Or there's that
feels like that.
It's something, I don't know. I think it's a J curve. There's something where, it took you 2 years to get to 50,000. Then you got to 50,000. It took you 5 weeks to get another 50,000. And it's like, once you hit that point of momentum, that's where you can really kind of skyrocket. There's like that curve, and it's like, a lot of people think success is a line going up. You slowly get better. But really, it goes nothing, and it kicks off.
Exponential, linear versus
that's
exponential.
It. Exponential. And so most people give up before they hit that momentum, before they're exponential. But it's like, that's where you can like really start to scale. I told you before, the same with the podcast. First 6 months, I had 50, 60 downloads an episode. Now I get that in like, probably an hour, probably less. And it just goes more and more and more. And so I think what you need to try to do is just aim for that momentum. I just think so many people give up before they have a little bit of adversity, they don't get the momentum, and they just give up and think it's impossible. Whereas you listen to your story, you're living in the room, started off in the bedroom, you quit your job, and then you had to get a part-time job when you need more money coming in. It's like, you got to make sacrifices if you want to build something like this.
Yeah, never accept no for an answer.
Yeah,
is usually what I say. There is always another way. There's always another solution. And I think it's very cliche to say, be prepared to fail, but effectively all that means is, and I'll relate this to a story, I guess. I remember talking to my mum when I was building the credit card payment app, and she was complaining how, Dad hasn't saved enough money for retirement and all this sort of stuff. And I said, don't worry about it, Mum. I'll look after you in retirement. And she sort of laughed and said, you've got to fail another 3 times before you'll be able to do that. And I'm not gonna hedge my bets on that, or something to that effect. And I was like, oh, she's so wrong. I'm definitely gonna do this. And it's obviously, like we said, that didn't work out to the dreams and aspirations that I had. But it's about the willingness to get up and do it again straight away. Like, there was no downtime. Take what I've learned. All right, what's the next problem I can solve? And really being part of the problem that you're trying to solve, and being confident that your problem is bigger than just you or a few people. Like, it needs to be a scalable model, and that's sort of a key lesson that I think I've learned along the way as well.
Yeah, well, that's all business is. It's solving problems. What's a problem you want to solve? And I spoke about that in a few episodes where we talked about business. It's like, well, what's something you're passionate about, and what's a problem in that you want to solve? You love crypto, you love that coding and stuff. Well, here's a problem we discovered. Let's start a business around it and solve that. The other problem is all these apps don't have any customer support. Let's create a whole business that's really around customer support and actually looking after our customers, as opposed to just being a one-way platform where I put money in and etc. And I think that's super important to understand, if we can get that across. But yeah, they say the average business owner fails 3 times or something like that.
Yeah, that was what Mum said. Right?
Yeah, that's what they say, right? And so once you failed once, okay, two more to go. Yeah, 2 more to go, and then you can make it.
It's been a super rewarding thing for me this year to be able to go to Mum and say, right, that stuff you wanted to do in your retirement, let's do it.
Yeah, wow.
And that's really meaningful, and that sort of also reminds you why you do these things, is to have good impact on other people's lives, and to thank her for all the fights and arguments that we had as a kid, and you know, that upbringing. So it's really, really rewarding when you get to that point. And but it's a journey along the way. You know, you see your friends going around traveling, getting all these life experiences, and you're stuck in a basement or a bedroom, wondering, is what I'm doing going to ever have an impact that I want it to have? And that's a big challenge, a big mental game for yourself, that you got to just keep on going and believe truly in the problem you're solving and in your ability to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's very easy to look at, like, I mean, even you, Swyftx, and go, oh yeah, I'd be willing to work a year to start a business like Swyftx, or, you know, Apple or something. You're like, I'd be willing to work in a garage for 2 years to start Apple. It's like, yeah, but they didn't know they were going to succeed. You didn't know if you were going to succeed. For all you knew, you could be in a basement, you know, working on this for 2 years and it completely fails, which I guess is kind of what happened with your first credit card company, right? And it's like, and once again, do we even call it failure? I think there's that quote that I love referencing: there is no winning or losing, only winning or learning. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
you don't lose, you learn, and then you take that and you keep going. People always talk about what's the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy started at 65 or whatever age, and you can pull out these people who started businesses at really old ages. Here we are at like early 20s or even mid 20s or wherever we are, whoever's listening, going, oh no, I failed. What am I going to do? It's like, you've got all the time in the world. Just keep failing, keep taking risks. And then you'll eventually get one that hits. And it might take you until you're 30, 35. Even then, you've still got so much time. It's just, you know, understanding patience and making, you know, short-term sacrifices for long-term rewards, like being able to, you know, take your mum on a holiday or pay off home loan or whatever it is. Like, what's more rewarding than that?
Plant some trees on the block of land at Maloney.
Yeah, plant some trees.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. No, I think the next step or what I've experienced in this last sort of 6 months that's been a really interesting thing to learn is the journey from going from a founder to a CEO. It's definitely you start a business and you have to do everything. You're creating the content for your ads, you're running the campaigns, you're closing the sales, you're doing the customer support, you're writing the code, or, you know, building the product, whatever it is. You are literally doing everything, and that's your job as a founder. As the business grows, you sort of start taking those hats off. You hire a marketing person, you hire a salesperson, you hire engineers, and you slowly get to this point where you realize I'm really the only hat I'm wearing is one to sort of make the final decision. And it is really quite rewarding and super exciting, because it gives you this ability to get infinitely more things done and achieve infinitely more things. But it's a big journey to get there. You can't just, you know, click your fingers and have that. I guess you've got to hire the right people, build trust with the right people, and surround yourself by people that know more than you. You know, there's no point hiring another one of yourself. As much as you feel like that's going to be a good idea, it definitely isn't. Yeah. You want, like, if you're a big picture person, you want someone who's detail orientated, or something like, you know, yin and yang sort of thing. Complement what you're not good at. Yeah. In terms of that. But on that, you mentioned having good people around you. Like, how has, I guess, networking been for you? Every time I meet CEOs and stuff, you know, they kind of say there's often three things. You've got, like, your network and the people you meet. You've got mentorship, and then, like, real world experience. They're kind of like, how are you successful? Well, I got real world experience. I got a really good network around me, and I had some good mentors. That's three kind of common things I see that successful people, or people I think are successful, talk about. Like, would you agree on that? Has that been a big part for you? Yeah. I think that what I've done wrong and what I would do differently if I was me again 10 years ago is I definitely focused too heavily on the first part of that, which was the getting out there and experiencing it. So I kept doing that, and I don't think I focused heavily enough on mentorship and what was the other thing you said?
So real world experience, mentorship, and network. Yeah,
networking. Yeah, so networking and mentorship are the two things that I definitely feel like I fell short on. And every day that a new opportunity comes past, and or something awesome happens, I think, how did we end up here? And I was like, damn, it's networking.
Yeah.
There's someone that I met, and it could have been 5 years ago. That person introduced me to someone else who meant I was at an event where I met this person, and now I'm here. So I would challenge the listeners of this podcast to think about when have you done something or achieved something or had an opportunity that was awesome, and just try and trace that back. There's obviously a point in the sand where you were born, so maybe don't go back that far, but you can always reflect on how did I get here, and it's just I just keep learning. I still keep learning that every day. I'm like, damn, that's so valuable, so important, and it's all about a rising tide floats all boats. Really. You hear that a lot in the startup space. So there's a lot of founders in Brisbane or ex-founders or people that are have hit businesses that are over $1 billion in valuation, and they're just excited to give back to the next generation of people coming through. So that's where that mentorship comes in as well. Yeah,
and that's where I'm really kind of trying to be, I guess, almost the leader in that in Australia. Like, kind of be the leader of, I've got a big audience of young people. It's like, for people who want to give back to young people, come chat with me. Like, let's do something. Let's put on an event. Let's do a giveaway. Let's do something where we can bring young people, because I just feel like young people are so disconnected right now, despite social media. Despite how much social media can connect us, we're so disconnected, and COVID really shined a light on that issue, I think. But yeah, I think networking is so important. That tracing, I do that tracing back thing. Like, I literally do that. I'll be like, oh wait, so I met this person. Oh, bang, it all came from this. And like, I've done presentations on it. We call it 1,000 doors. Behind one door could be 1,000 more. Yep. So people see one door and they go, oh, can't be bothered, it's just one person. But you don't know, there could be 1,000 doors behind them that you can't see. And so by building a good relationship with them, that's where you can like start to open more and more doors. I know, it's something I'm very passionate about. As you can probably tell, I get fired up when we talk about communication and just meeting people, because honestly, I think that will open more doors than anything else, your network. Because like, if you want to get funding, okay, I know this person. If you want to start a business, okay, I know this. I'm working on a project I just mentioned to you, and I'm going to, like, once that's ready, I'm going to reach out to like 100 people I know. I don't know what's going to come from it, but I'm sure they'll know through 100 people. You can probably get in front of anyone in Australia through the 100 right people, because they know 6 people, that whole 6 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think I know Obama through 6 degrees of separation somehow. Yeah.
Well, as I was talking about this exact concept in a group of business students at QT, I think it was last week, and one of the questions was, well, how do you get started with that networking? And I think that's a fair point. Yeah. And I guess 2 things to that: go to anything and everything, and don't go with an agenda. Just like, I've been told it's like almost going out the clubs with the intention of trying to meet a girl, right? Yeah. Everyone just knows that you're there for your own purposes and your own interests. It just sort of radiates off you. So just go to events, get involved, give back to the community however you possibly can, and people will want to help you. They'll just naturally want to help you. And you can walk into a room of complete strangers and you'll be absolutely amazed if you start talking to them to understand the journey that they've been on. And, one of my mentors, Luke, I was talking about this earlier, he's a super successful guy, company's worth $2 billion, and, just walk around in his shorts and thongs and you wouldn't know any different. But there's someone that just has an immense wealth of experience that you could accidentally end up tapping into and, just bumping into them on the street. So, yeah, super important not to have an agenda and just sort of get in and chat to people and start learning and listening. Very, very important.
There's a quote I said to you before, it's from How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of my all-time favorite books. And it was, you'll make more connections in 2 months of being genuinely interested in people, right, in 2 years of trying to get people genuinely interested in you. So it's like, don't go with an agenda. Don't try to get people interested in you. Just be interested in people. And as a result, they will then be interested in you. People love talking about themselves, right?
Yep.
And that's where podcasting is a sick hack for networking. Like, the people like yourself, I've been able to meet really cool people through the podcast. Actually, me and Andrew's mate, Sachin and Adam, right? They just met Malcolm Turnbull. They just had him on the podcast. I think that they say, like, yeah, they get people listening to the show and stuff. It's not massive, but for them, it's just an excuse to meet really cool people they shouldn't be able to meet at their age and where they're at in life, but just through a Zoom podcast. Like, there's really, if you get creative, there are ways to meet anyone. Yep. I think Tim Ferriss did that challenge where he said, I'm going to give you, anyone who can do this, I'm going to give a round the world trip ticket. So I'll pay for you to go around the world. All you have to do is get in front of who you admire most, or get in front of these really successful people. And he gave them a week or something, and then they came back and no one had even tried it because they thought it was impossible. And he said, I would have given the world, whoever got the furthest, I would have given the ticket to, but no one even tried it. If someone had just done an email or done this, they would have won the ticket, but no one even tried. That was another cool story. Another friend of ours, Dale, or Pace, his name is, he's a musician. He did a video on TikTok singing Maroon 5, Adam Levine song, and he tagged Adam Levine, and then Adam Levine messaged him back saying, hey, I love this, and he invited him to come perform with them next time they're in Sydney.
Yeah.
Just because he reached out. He just tagged him. He just said, hey, love this, and tagged him, and bang, look what happens. I just think most people don't put themselves out there. They aren't willing to go to an event and volunteer their time. There's one, for me, with tracing back, there was this one business event. It was like a free event. The business events, they're free, and then at the end they sell you, right? There's still a lot of value in them. And I got a text in the morning at like 8 o'clock, and I woke up, and I was like, oh, that's right, I signed up for this thing. It's in an hour. I was like, I'm not doing anything today. I'll just go into the city. 50 minutes to get in the city. I rocked up, had a good time. I met with one person, which just, I met so many people off the back of that. And it's just crazy. And I'm like, if I just laid in bed and just went, nah, I can't be bothered to go, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think that's what you mean. It's like, just go to everything. Just go to these events. That's what I'm trying to provide. 5:30 Club. Just go to 5:30 Club. Go to these different things and just start meeting people. Volunteer your time. You never know what's going to happen.
Even just being here in a co-working space. Just
yeah.
As much as other people may not love it all the time, but go around and have a chat to someone in the kitchen and understand what they're doing and get interested in their project, and you'll never know how you can help them or how they can help you.
My accountant works here. And accountants get heaps of work from here, especially if you work with other small businesses, co-working spaces. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that people just aren't aware of, that are beyond just Facebook groups or something, which is where most people look. I think, if you can get across how important networking is, it can just change your life, as you mentioned. It's a whole look back and see where that opportunity came from. Oh, it was my network. Yeah, it's just crazy. But anyways, man, this has been a really fun chat. Before we get into the final question, was there anything you wanted to cover, like anything you wanted to talk about when it comes to Swyftx, crypto? We haven't really spoken much about crypto because you're more in the business side of things. But do you think the future of crypto is very bright? Do you think it's going to be the future? We'll be using that to actually pay for things in the future? What are your predictions with the crypto market? Yeah,
well, definitely I tend to... And it even ties into, I guess, a bit of the vision of Swyftx and where it's going. But I tend to, while crypto, I strongly believe crypto is an important part of a diversified portfolio. It's not the only part of a diversified portfolio. So when I'm jump on podcasts or these sort of things, or just sharing my experience with people, I tend to try not to nerd out too much on the crypto side of things and just talk about, obviously, some of the basic stuff we touched on with Bitcoin and the fundamentals there, but also just the wider sort of financial opportunities or the process of creating financial freedom and that sort of stuff. Barefoot Investor was one of the books that Mum made me read as a kid, including Richest Man in Babylon and
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
The
classics. Those three alone, just read those three books. They cover everything you kind of need just to get started when it comes to like financial mindset. Yeah, definitely. So those things are all, I guess that's probably the bigger message, and people have said to me a few times, well, why have you started Swyftx? What's the journey? What's the vision? And as crazy as it sounds, the ability to create financial freedom for the world, it's not so our goal and our future is not just in crypto. We want to apply some of the technology in crypto and blockchain to try and break down borders of the financial world, both geographical borders in basic things like stocks in other exchanges around the world are harder to get access to depending on where you live, but also the actual borders of your, I guess, your class or your net wealth. So there's only certain. It frustrates me that as a 14-year-old kid working at Woolworths, I wasn't able to invest in startups. I could invest in GoFundMe and that sort of stuff, but not the sort of high level investment opportunities that are happening in the if you're a high net wealth or sophisticated investor. Bit of a funny thought for a 14-year-old, but I do remember thinking that, and those are the sort of problems that I want to break down, create equal opportunity so that it's not just high net wealth individuals having access to make more money. Money makes money. And that's the thing, like you hear people invested in these startups. It was just, people just come to them. And I think Gary Vee, I think people pay 10 grand to get 10 minutes to pitch in front of him. It's like, just once you get to that point, people just make more money. And then people down here, exactly, they can't invest in it. Because by the time you find out, everyone's already done the angel rounds, it's already up to it, and the investment isn't as profitable.
Yep. So, yeah, we're really, really keen to expand and see where we can apply. And crypto's already starting to do that on its own in certain areas, and it would be nice to try and bring that into a platform that's easier access, and a little bit more regulated. So we haven't really touched on regulation today. It is a hot topic, but effectively, there was a big ICO boom in 2017 where every man and his dog was throwing money at every project that came around the corner that had the word blockchain. It was going to solve all the problems. So, but that in itself is a fundraising mechanism that is more accessible to anyone equally, or supposedly equally, depending on how dodgy the project is or not. So the technology is there, the blockchain is there, the transparency is there. It just sort of needs a bit more regulation and support to, I think, really start solving those problems.
It's still early days for blockchain and crypto, I think. I think it's got a long way to go. But very exciting. So before we wrap up, ask every guest, what would your number one piece of advice be to the younger generation? It doesn't have to be Bitcoin or crypto related. It can be anything you want.
Well, we pretty much covered a lot of my favorite pieces of advice in there. I think one, networking, obviously, big win, but we've already talked about that, so let's not recover that. I'd say one of the biggest things we haven't touched too much on, and even Atlassian, is walking proof that you don't need funding to start a business. If Atlassian, one of Australia's, if not Australia's, most successful tech company.
Yeah, multi-billion dollars.
Over 100 billion now, I think.
100 billion.
Yeah, so they were self-funded, so that you don't. It's just about being frugal, making the right decisions, and you don't have to get funding. And the great position that Swyftx is now in is that we have, it's taken. Maybe we could have got here sooner and faster if we'd had funding, but then you end up a little bit constrained in terms of instead of being able to just build your vision, you kind of have to build to the next funding round, or to someone else's goals instead of your own. So I think it's really powerful position. I'm not saying don't take funding if there's an opportunity to do it, but also don't let that be the reason not to go after something and not believe that you can do it. Like even back to my fruit store, couldn't afford a cash register, so I used my mum's T-chest. Just, you've got to be creative, and everything doesn't have to be perfect, but just you can make it work if you believe in yourself and your ability to execute it. Yeah,
I love that. And I think by not taking funding, it means you're going to be frugal with your money. You're going to build that really solid team, versus if you just get a few million and you start hiring, and you probably be a bit reckless because you've got a lot of money coming in. Whereas by having that as a ground and a base unit to start on, it can be really, I think it means a business could go a lot further. And it means you're committed. It means you're not just here for money. You're actually here to grow the business. And I think it's if someone just puts a big chunk of money in front of you, there's also a lack of respect for what that is and what it means to earn that and what it can do. Whereas if you build that up over time, you get that much more grounded understanding of everything. 100%. Awesome, Alex. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And for anyone who would get in touch with you or look at Swyftx, where's the best place to go? Are there incentives if they sign up? Like, obviously, I use Swyftx. I think it's an incredible company, and hopefully we can do some work in the future together. But for people who want to get into the crypto market, obviously if they're underage, they can do the demo mode. Yes. Is there an age limit for crypto? Not so much for crypto, but from a legal standpoint, we can't enter a contract with someone under the age of 18 when it comes to handling the money. So we do require you to be over the age of 18 to trade on the platform. However, you could always opt to have an account under a parent or guardian and get some access there. That's how I bought my first shares, was through my dad's account. So there is still opportunity there. But anyone can sign up for a demo account. You don't have to verify. You get 10 grand or 10K US to play around with. Great opportunity. The app is available on iOS and Android. Just search for Swyftx, SWYFTX. Yeah, SWYFTX to clarify. Get that one right. Or online, swyftx.com.au. And you can either log in through the web or on your mobile device, either way. Yeah, so 250 coins, all the major ones are there: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin.
Yep.
All those coins are there. Great UI, great pro. You can automate it. Like, there's a lot you can do with it. It's really cool. Dark mode now. I just saw you got dark mode.
Yep, that's been a big one.
Which is great to see. Big selling point.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see where the company goes. But for anyone who wants to follow you online, you're not on social media, are you?
I am active on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Okay.
Yep.
LinkedIn and Twitter. So I'll put those below. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. It's been a great episode. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the podcast. The fact that you would sit there and listen to me for so long is awesome, and I love you for that. Thank you so much. Just real quick, I am starting to speak at schools a lot more frequently now. So if you're in Australia, specifically Sydney, and either you're a student, maybe you're a teacher, or you've got a brother or sister in school, or you have any connections at all and you want me to come speak at a school or any presenting things, I am looking to ramp that up a lot. I've got a really cool school talk I've been working on for a few months now. I've just started speaking at a bunch of schools. It's been going really well. So yeah, go to the link in the show notes or go to drivenyoung.com and you'll see school talks up the top, and just click on that and send me an email. Otherwise, yeah, figure out any way to get in contact with me. I've also got the Sexual Assault podcast, which is now live with Brent Sanders. Go check that out. It's called Consent and Consequences. That is a Driven Young Productions podcast. It's something I'm very proud of. So there's lots going on. Definitely go check it all out. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and week.